On a summer night, it is a prime place to listen to a concert. On or near the water at Bowl Point Park in East Providence, or just across the river at India Point Park. The sound travels well across the water, a lot farther than you might think.
The vision of this park as a concert venue has evolved slowly over the years, and frankly, it's started to become annoying, and it's annoyed a lot of the residents of India Point Park.
Denis Kolinsky has lived in the Fox Point neighborhood of Providence, just over the highway from India Point Park, for 45 years. He's owned the same house since 1980. Kolinsky said concert promoters have had a tin ear when it comes to taking the residents here into consideration.
Unfortunately, I feel as though the perception of this park and that park over there is that it's isolated from the rest of the community. This park, India Point Park, is on the other side of the highway. You know, it's Rhode Island. That's like halfway across the state. Making sound in the park is not seen to affect the neighborhood.
Kolinsky has watched a proliferation of bands come to India Point Park and Bold Point over the past several years. The numbers tell the story. There were 10 concerts at India Point this past summer, up from just 5 in 2018. And 17 concerts were held at Bold Point Park in 2019. The Fox Point Neighborhood Association says the reaction from its members has been mixed. Some like the music, saying it's part of city life, while others find it annoying or simply too loud. Kolinsky has been generally supportive of the festivals and concerts, saying they have made Providence a more desirable city to live in.
I think the concert series is a wonderful thing. I think using these parks for cultural events and organizing cultural events, bringing the Cape Verde community together for their annual fest here, I think is fantastic. But I think we could do a better job of designing these kinds of events.
It was a concert on August 24th at India Point that organizers estimate drew 3,500 people, which prompted him to finally call the police.
Police said they're permitted until 10 o'clock, there's nothing we can do about it. They said it's loud.
Kolinsky, a veteran professor at RISD who teaches film and video, has his own decibel meter.
That was, 83 dB, spiking at 83 dB. That's the sound of a locomotive, a diesel engine, passing at 40 miles an hour, 100 feet away.
We wanted to know if having a permit from the city gave the bands at India Point Park a pass when it comes to abiding by the city's noise ordinance. Public Safety Commissioner Stephen Perry said no, and apologized to Kolinsky for not sending an officer out to check the noise level of the band and issuing a warning if necessary. Perry told the Hummel Report, quote, "There are no exemptions for noise. We could have done something. We apologize for him having to endure the noise. If there's a complaint in the future, we will send our meter out there to document the level, because it is an ordinance violation." While the city of Providence has jurisdiction over India Point, it has no control over Bold Point in East Providence, a short distance across the Providence River.
Sound does not know municipal barriers. The air is a public utility, and sound waves ride the air.
When the promoters pitched having a series of concerts here to city officials in 2016, they offered a much different scenario. The Hummel Report obtained minutes of a meeting where the promoter said, quote, "The sound will be aimed across the bay toward the Port of Providence and I-95. That never happened. Instead, the stage was turned 90 degrees to the north, with sound aiming directly at Kolinsky's neighborhood.
Basically, I was told that if I didn't like it, I could leave my house. I've been there for 40 years, and, it's my home.
The good news for neighbors is that the Bowl Point concert series is scheduled to move to the south next summer, at a bigger parcel of land farther away from residents in Providence. But the concerts at India Point aren't going anywhere.
The problem is when the hill gets seen as a kind of an amphitheater, and the stage is put up on the dock or right in front of the dock, and the speakers are pointed up the hill and toward the neighborhood. And in those instances, what happens is that the long waves, the sound, the bass and the drums and the subsonics tend to travel a lot farther than the high frequencies. And so what you hear in your house is basically a thump, 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 thump. And sometimes it's six hours, you know, on a Saturday when, you know, you're home.
So Kolinsky has a few suggestions for city officials to consider before issuing permits next summer.
I would really like to think that there is a redesign possible that doesn't affect the neighborhood.
One possibility would be to point speakers parallel to the highway and not toward it and the neighborhoods beyond. Another would be to move the concerts a couple of 100 yards east to where this soccer field is. He says there is much more room and it would absorb the sound better.
I can't fault anybody who wants to design a concert. I just would like them to consider where the sound is going. We need to consider the quality of life in the neighborhoods, and sound intrusion into those neighborhoods is becoming more and more of a problem as these concert venues get larger and more abundant.
And he made this offer to city officials and promoters next time there is a concert like this one at either of the parks.
I say come sit in my living room, come sit in my backyard. I have to close the windows. If I sit in the backyard, you know, I can't have company over because it interferes with talking.
In Providence, Jim Hummel for the Hummel Report.